Hi, everybody. I'm going to introduce us, and then I'm going to turn it over to everybody that's here. I just want to thank all of you. I was noticing the people that are signing on for CreateAWorld to watch it later. So it's really fun to get the emails that are talking and addressing the ones that we've done before, and signing on to watch the ones that we're presently doing. So I'm really thrilled with the phenomenon of what's occurring in the world at large. And I wanted, because I'm the one that sourced this with Janice Creneti. It's fine, Janice, if you'd like to raise your hand. And really thrilled with and the phenomenon of giving something a place. So when we started the Collaborators with these lovely women, minus one, Victoria's, doing something in a meeting of some kind, in the phenomenon of giving something a place, it's really beautiful to see the names of people we don't know, and that people are being contributed to by what we're doing. The whole basis of CreateAWorld is based on the principles of the field of Tantra Maat, not though it's my name, and though I seek to embody the principles, I can promise you I'm not the principles. They're independent of me. And that is that everything's part of everything else. Everything operates on behalf of everything else. And everything is in relationship with everything else, and everything has a place. And that's all part of a greater whole. And that we're always moving into the next greater whole. So it's a complete contradiction of the world in a way that we were born into, that is all about for or against. It's all about what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. Most human beings look like a ping pong match because they can't quite figure out which side of the fence they're on, not realizing that we actually are the ping pong net where the ball's going over on both sides. So I wanted to take this time, and Victoria will watch it later, to really thank all of you for taking on this endeavor. Sometimes endeavors last a long time, sometimes they last a short time, but they always give something a place. They always give something a place to be. So how this started is, it started because we were having conversations. In fact, Deb and I were in a conversation yesterday and said, I won't say the cuss word, but cuss word, we should have been recording this. So that we decided to, as collaborators, to meet every 4 weeks and to let you eavesdrop on anything we've been observing or anything we've been noticing. We're not driving anything. We're not seeking for you to understand anything. It's the ancient tradition of storytelling, and it's the ancient tradition of tribal sharing, because there's something about in the sharing of our lives and the sharing of our interests that gives us a place, gives humanity a place, and it gives you a place for your story and your reflection through your reflection on our stories. So I think I'll go ahead and start, since I was sharing with you all before. I think I'll just, so for me, I have a very strong affinity with Maat. Maat was a goddess in Egypt, but only very later, only when they had gods and goddesses. But the pre-Diluvian, the pre-flood, they didn't have gods and goddesses. They had principles. And I know 2 of those principles. One of those principles is Maat. And Maat was about harmonizing everything so that it didn't matter what it was. Our planet, the power of our planet is it always is in harmonization. It's always seeking to harmonize everything. So it's same as we talk about in the field of Tantra Maat, is everything's part of everything else, and the deal is to return it to its harmonics. So you have a symphony where all the instruments are tuned to each other, rather than a symphony where all the instruments are dissonant with each other. So when I ran into biogeometry through Georgia Dow, who basically took, when I did in-house work, when I did in-person work, she was my room manager. And all I could ever say to people for years is, I can't explain what happens when Georgia puts together a room. It just is harmonic. So she became fascinated with this thing called biogeometry. And then I began to read the books about it. And I don't like to read, so that gives you an idea of the level of interest I was in. And I'd be darned if I don't get to the chapter in Back to the Future by Ibrahim Karim. If I don't get to that chapter and it talks about that biogeometry is based essentially on the pre-Diluvian Egyptian ways of existing based in Maat. So it's really, and the reason I want to bring this up is because a lot of us are strange. A lot of us don't operate consistent with the world around us. And it's hard. It's really, really hard, because the desire to compromise, the desire to belong to what seems to be the only way you can belong is really, really hard. So when I started in 2014, I started a body of work. I just asked people if they wanted to gather and hang with me and do all this stuff I'm not going to talk about right now, but do things from a memory, from a remembrance I have that I had seen no evidence for in the world I was born into. So for me to have a system that comes from pre-Egyptian time based on the principles of Maat is, first of all, real validation that I might have known what I was talking about. And that I have known what I was doing, not based on anything I read or anything I tried to apply, but just my direct link with creation. So that's really my offering today. My offering today, and to start the conversation, is any takeaway for those of you that are watching now and those of you that will watch later is trust yourself. Just because there isn't validation in the world, just because there isn't evidence in the world of what you know to be real, doesn't make it less real. In fact, if you look at the most ancient of knowledge, pretty much what people are calling real during this time isn't real at all. It's an illusion. And it is my confirmed belief that our consciousness is breaking out of that illusion. And I like being with people that are breaking out of that illusion with me. So that's over to me. And we should put our working titles in here too, by the way. Thank you, Electra. So I'll go put mine in. And who wants to go next?
I'll figure out how to put mine in because I can't talk and do that at the same time. Because I'm going to piggyback on what you said. I was thinking, I want to talk about faith today, having the faith that what we remember, that what we feel, sense, are present to is real, and how tough that can be, and what we know without evidence from the system we're born into, and how tough that can be, and how necessary that makes pockets of people like this, like um but what do I be sorry, people, trying to say several things at once, because two things have happened for me in the last day. Actually, a lot of things have happened in the last day, but I'm going to focus on two. One is that um, Electra, Liz, and I do, through the Language of Consciousness Institute that Electra's the director for, is we're doing a group to engage with the book You is the Mind of Creation, which Tantra wrote. We were on the topic of amore, and which, the short version is that that's about our memories of connection. And something Liz said and someone else led me to see that the things that ping me, you know, give me an aha or a little spark, are tracers. I may not be able to trace it all the way back, but they're somehow tracers. That's what I was left with of that connection with other, whatever other is, a person, a phenomenon, uh, a life design, something. That was the first thing that was really huge for me yesterday. And the other was that I finished my website and published it, so and that's thevitalpsyche.com. But it is the sticking point for 3 days was getting the payment button right. And I mean, functional. It turned out that it actually, the woman who helped me was getting my brain lined up with what harmonizing, I suppose, would be a good word, to get my brain lined up with what was on the structure of the payment section. Because there was literally something I wasn't seeing. One of those asterisk places that's a required field. I literally didn't see it, so I didn't do something right. And I didn't miss the disconnect and the symbolism of that. But it really, as joyful as that was, it was also, I suddenly had such a drop in energy. I was so exhausted, as if something had been pulled out of me and I was having to rest, like after an illness. Lori, that's what made me when these came on. But then the rest of the evening was literally grabbing onto faith that there was a reason to have completed the website, that there was something life enhancing for me as well as others about that connection to others. And that has been quite a process all through the night. I don't have a conclusion, and it's not as rough or difficult as other times have been. But trusting that that harmony exists and that connection to serving others is real, especially since I'm not out there in the world like so many others. So I don't have a conclusion. I'm just saying that's been there for me for 24 hours, or not quite 24 hours, based on the things that Tantra said. She pinged me, basically, because I'm not sure I would have said all that otherwise. So if anybody's got input, and if not, then it's just there to be there for whoever is listening.
But isn't this a good example, Deb, of sometimes we just know to do something and we don't know what it's connected to?
Yes, and I think that's what was driving me to get the website done. Because I decided not to pay someone to do it for me. I decided I needed to build the neurons, the neural structures to comprehend what I was doing. Some of it was for the functionality of being able to fix something myself if something went wrong. But I don't even know what the reason was. I knew I needed to be able to be more connected to the website, that it wasn't just a thing. And that carried me but knowing it needed to be done and the aftermath are two different things. I still know it needed to be done. I'm thrilled, but the aftermath has been wild. Like, look at all that. I'm going to put my internal thoughts on speaker. Here we go. Like, look at all that time you wasted. Look at all that money you wasted. Who cares that you've got those neural structures of connection? Nobody even knows you're out there. What makes you think, and what makes you think that this will lead to prosperity or a
Wow.
piece of prosperity for your life? These are the internal thoughts. Thank heavens it hasn't been as bad as other times, which means something is different.
I'd like to
But
respond a little bit
yeah, go for it, please, because
because
I know I'm not the only one.
no, because as a psychic, I've talked about this period of time for 45 years. Or I may be up to 50 now, I can't remember. But what I talked about was what I was been shown with this would be the fastest renaissance that humanity's experienced for a very long time. So one of the things that I'm hearing in your speaking, Deb, is that when a new paradigm starts, it isn't the function. Like I remember when I first started putting my stuff together, trauma recovery was just getting started. Really, honestly, that's how old I am. And I knew that wasn't my gig. That that my gig was the restoration of the original nature of the original design of human being. But there was no place for that. There wasn't any place for that at all. And I've been watching since 2014, this cascade. It's like watching a waterfall coming over a mountaintop. Like there's new waters coming over. And because you have trouble studying for your
Yep,
psych exam because your mind and the present mind of psychology no longer mesh.
right.
Elizabeth, when she was a teacher, the way she knew to
Yep.
teach and the way teaching occurred, pardon my balloons, and the way teaching occurred didn't mesh. Electra starting the Institute with nobody even knowing what she was doing or why she was doing it that way, because there's something said it was hers to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
still hers to do. But if we asked why it's hers to do, it's because there's some kind of direct link with creation that once human beings call self-expression. We once called it self-expression. We didn't call it application. We didn't call it function. We didn't call it purpose. We didn't call it goal. We called it self-expression. And then and that's what's happening. The self is rising and its need to express itself as itself is starting to become dominant. Someone once asked me what would do if people stopped scheduling consults with me. And I said, well, I think I'd just go fishing because
Mm-hmm.
that was just my self-expression. And if I didn't have people that wanted my self-expression, then I love to fish. And I was going to go fishing. So that's what I hear, Deb.
I've taken notes on something you said. I'll remember it for later.
But
Yes.
this whole incident, it links to your faith discussion and paying attention to what's rising, because all of us have gone ahead from Janice's one woman show to Lori's developing a whole program to what everybody else has done. So this whole group of women have listened, it's listen to a different piper is what they used to call that when we were younger. But there is that message internally that says, this is what you need to do. And you're going around like, I don't see anybody else doing this gig. Why am I doing? But we know it's just so clear.
Right.
So clear. And there isn't like anybody waiting once we've formed the website or started practicing to go, yeah, good girl. Now we're going to give you 500 clients. It doesn't happen that way because it's sort of like being a beacon in the darkness. But once we start holding to that and saying, I know this is what I need to be doing, I know it inside me, and whether the outside world or not verifies quickly is not proof that the decision was wrong or right. And
That's a brilliant statement.
yeah, and I think we function as a bridge after that, because we knew what it was like for everybody else. We listened, or like I moved to Hawaii once just because the driver said you got to go. And everybody said, oh, you're really brave. And I said, no, I just, the message was go forth, get there, get your butt there. So it was my job to get my butt there. Once there, then I started having to speak to, during the process of people saying you're brave, I started to be the bridge. How do you listen to what's driving you? How do you, and so the language we use bridges from the person who goes, oh, you're so brave to do that, into my world, which says, no, this is a very clear message that I have to do this. And everybody on this screen has done that.
And reflecting back to that person, well, what are you brave about? You're brave about this or this. That's an opportunity. And
that's an opportunity. I'll have to say I probably didn't take that opportunity, because they were literally, you could see the fear. Yeah. Oh, I couldn't do that. That would be really scary. I was like, no, not scary. And I think that all by itself is important, because when we don't show, I just didn't give her fear a lot of room to be a valid in my field. So I said, no, for me, this is what I have to do. And it meant selling a house, selling furniture, closing down my business, moving to Hawaii. And when I got to Hawaii, I looked around and go like, why am I here? It was kind of funny, actually, to go like, why did I go 5,000? I am 5,000 miles away from anybody I love.
Yeah. And why am I here? Okay, website's published. Why am I here? But if I blend what you said and what Tantra said, there's a gap. Excuse me. I'm just realizing this. There's a lack of harmony or a gap between what the system I'm born into says are the right steps to be known and make money and self-expression. So if I stay in self-expression, which may borrow from some of the world I'm born into, actions, there's harmony. There's still no guarantee, but it's self-expression. And that's no different than when I plant my little seeds in the garden.
Well, you are planting a seed.
That's exactly right.
And you've placed your plant, and in fact, she's not a seed. She's probably a small plant by this point. But that's the proof of it. And that's why you spent the time doing it.
And there's no guarantee. I just planted, a bunch of my seeds, actual seeds.
I actually will say I think there is proof.
Okay, well, all right, go ahead.
Yeah. If everything you have ever done from a core knowing that you should do it,
any of us,
all your history, that's from falling in love with your husband, to choosing to have children, to choosing to go to school. All the decisions you go like, yeah, they're right. They turned out there wasn't an immediate, but it was. And that's why I say there is not evidence. There is evidence, and there is a knowing, and it wasn't for nothing.
And you're saying so many brilliant things. People, I hope you're really listening. Because actually, when you just said that, the none of the things you named had an immediate result in a certain sense. So in a sense, it's been a lifetime of these things, these phenomenon, these events, choices coming together in a composition, and all of it is self-expression, following that guidance. Because none of meeting Russ went the way that was conventional. It didn't happen that way. And so there was the guidance. And isn't that interesting? And I just, in the actual seeds I planted, my little kale plants are about this big now. They're so cute. But once they're planted, they're not seen for a period of time. There's no guarantee that the seed was viable, none whatsoever.
And
No,
what's happening to the soil? What's the soil doing? It's composting.
yep, it's
It's
offering all
taking
its
the seed.
nutrition
So
up to the
you're
little,
composting. You have put all these nutrients into the website, right?
and all of us into
And
each of our endeavors.
mhm, mhm. And and so now you're composting.
Mhm.
You know, you've brought everything, and this is for everyone. We bring everything into our endeavors, and sometimes we have to sit in it and let it compost. You know, aging good wine, it has to age, and then we have to keep feeding it, right? So if you're looking at, let's use the website, right? You're looking at it and you're feeding it with blogs and lots of, love for who you are and what you do. And we're all about that. I mean, we can
Mhm.
each, talk about it from our own
That's
corners,
right.
right?
That's right.
So good things take time to marinate and compost. And sometimes it really sucks because we got to sit in it and wait.
And that's all the people we've invited fit that model too.
Yeah,
Yep.
All the people we've invited to
fit,
share with
yeah.
us have been self-expressed and dealing with the weeds and the varmints that stick in our head and try to tell us that we don't have the right to grow what we came here to grow.
Yeah, and I'm seeing this. I I brought a friend of mine, Randy, on
Mhm.
CreateAWorld a little while ago, and she's been marinating, and I hadn't been back to my swim class for quite a while, and I came back on Wednesday, and oh my gosh, it was like coming home. All these women in the pool, and everybody saying, "Hi, we missed you." It was so sweet. And Randy and I floated for an hour after that and just caught up, and
Mm.
she's in the same place, right? And now she's getting her things out there, and she's going into another training in a couple of weeks in Mexico, which is really exciting. And now she's going and looking for venues around the area. So it's similar, right?
Yep.
It's okay, things are coming together. And she said, wow, all of a sudden things just started to align very, very quickly. And so I'm hearing this in so many people, that and it's the weight. It's the weight,
And the
you know.
principles of harmonizing
Yeah.
the steps to take and the self-expression, using what we can from the system we were born into with the self-expression that's outside of it, and inventing other designs as need be. That's what I'm
Oh, I
hearing
love
too.
that. Yeah.
So
Inventing
I'm
other
I'm going to sit with
designs.
that.
And
That's just really fun.
Hmm.
you know, gestation is part of the feminine expression of our planet. And females, you know, depending on their species, carry their babies for weeks, months. There are some out there where it's even a couple years. And I know plenty of women who, when they got pregnant, all of a sudden they were wanting to eat something that they'd never wanted to eat before, right? They couldn't speak to the biomechanics of why they were craving something particular, but they knew there was a call and they answered the call. And so I think as we, because I do believe that we're in restoration of the primordial feminine on the planet, and as we honor that, I think everything that we've been talking about this morning is also very much in that primordial feminine, as opposed to the sort of linear logic model that is very much a part of Western cultures. You know, the cause and effect, you know, this will create that, which will create that, which will create. Well, we don't know. I mean,
we don't.
We don't know. So, and I know for myself that it's also about self-care. Because when I have something inside me that says, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and I ignore it, it never works out well. Something will happen so that thing just keeps getting louder and louder and louder and louder until it's like, I must do it. You know, and I think ourselves, capital S, are incredibly wise, because they bring not just the wisdom of this particular lifetime, but all of the lifetimes that we've ever engaged with. And, you know, but we're, again, in Western cultures, we're trained that power and authority lies outside of ourselves. And so, you know, if we want to know what to do, then we have to go in search of the power and authority outside of ourselves. We're not trained to listen to our internal guidance. And yet again, I know for myself that that's the most reliable guidance. And I know that I'm definitely, as I make a lot of transitions in my life, I'm really in a position of having to be in the practice of listening to that internal guidance more than I listen to all of the other stuff out there that says, you know, all the what ifs and the oh no's and the, you know, the boogeymen lurking under the covers. So, and again, that's part of why CreateAWorld was, because we wanted all of you to hear from people all over, again, who are making this same journey of quieting the external, you know, all the reasons that you can't, and honoring that urge that rises up for me from the depths to say, I'm going to move with creation in this way, because that is what creation is calling me to do. And that is the only reason I need.
Can I ask about a distinction here?
Mm-hmm.
That inner drive of, you got to do this, you got to do this, you need to be doing this. That's the authentic sense of knowing. How did you begin to distinguish that from, you should be doing this? Don't you know you should be that? The other one, I've experienced them as internal drivers, and it took a while before I could distinguish, this is the knowing, and this is the, I don't even know what to call it. I'm just going to call it an artifact. But it can be just as pushy and insistent, even though it's not accurate sometimes. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so for me, I think it was recognizing the voice of judgment. So like when you say, so you should do this. Well, to me, when I hear, well, you should do this, I know that that is my judge, one of my internal saboteurs. And if you're
Mm.
familiar with the PQ, the positive intelligence work, they talk a lot about internal saboteurs. And so when I hear that, you should, I know that that's my judge, basically trying to keep me playing small, because when I hear those things, it seems that the guidance is always about how to stay safe.
Mm.
As if there was, in that, again, that very sort of Western culture linear description of safe. Whereas when it's the call of creation, there's always an opportunity to expand. And arguably, there's ultimately no risk with that expansion, because whatever happens, the expansion has, it's everything we're talking about this morning. It's the expansion that has opened a door that we don't even see yet. We don't even recognize yet, but the door has been opened. And thus our world has changed forever. So yeah, for me, it's definitely listening to whether there's the call for contraction or expansion, and whether it's judgment versus opportunity.
Isn't this the crux point that most people are at when they're trying to learn to pay attention? Because you can have an inner driver, but society says, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is the little role you're supposed to play. And when somebody says, how do I know? How do I know my purpose? How do I know why I'm here? And I think each of us found small ways to start listening. But I remember a time in my life when I felt I was being pressured by the other side, by my guides or teachers, but it was, it was to get me out of a box. It was to kick me out of the box that I was stuck in. So sometimes it's in small places, and you just have to place your faith that, okay, I'm going to do this, even though nothing in society says that I should be. Like in my case, I left corporate world and went into massage and healing work. There was nothing in the outside world that said that that was a good idea. But I think I had learned to start making those choices before then, whether it was taking a course or, I remember when I first started to step into this world of trusting the greater forces. I thought to myself, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to what I was doing before. Well, now, first of all, it's not possible. But when I think of that world now, I feel like I'm in a box and I can't get out. When I think of following what seems right for me, there's nothing but open expansion, like the Fibonacci spiral going out into the world. And I think that's true for so many people, that there's this point where you have to start trusting the voice within. And when you can start trusting that, like you said, Janice, then the world opens up to you, because suddenly you're starting to do what you came here to do and be who you came here to be.
I think it's Anais Nin, right, that has the poem about the day came when it was more painful to stay in the bud as opposed to bloom.
And it's extremely painful. You watch people and it's like being tied up. Like sometimes I had a feeling like I was just bound and couldn't get out of it. And I think maybe my inner knowing was letting me have that sensation to realize that what I was doing was not what I should be doing. That something had to be made, because I was pretty good at being a good girl and doing what society told me to do. And then I just said, this isn't working. It just isn't working.
Mhm.
I relate all of what everybody's saying to the beautiful ancient art of Tai Chi and Qigong. Everything you're talking about, it's that way of being relational with ourselves and our advisory centers, or our dantians, if you will, chakras, however you want to term those. But it's that inner wisdom. And when we can be in the witness of that and still hold the paradise that is here. I mean, I see the both of that. And how do we bring that harmony? How do we bring that resonance, that cohesion, the coherency to be our full expression? And oh my God, we can do that. We can practice that. We can be in it with community and others, sharing the stories, sharing the ahas, or the questions, or the curiosity and the magic. And that is CreateAWorld, right? To me, with all of those principles, and all of those principles are really in Tai Chi and Qigong. They're in all the indigenous practices. And wow, if we can get back to that, what's possible? Anything's possible.
Mm-mm.
I'm complete.
And I think we are getting back to that, Lori. That the beauty of Tai Chi is, and the ancient arts, is they were designed to have the human system remember,
Mm.
so that it wasn't at the effect of the world around it. And the bodies carry memory, and our bodies don't want to die. And they're fighting for their life and taking us with them, as near as I can tell. So something like Tai Chi, Qigong, and other things, breathing, those things, they're kind of our love affair with our body. I was in a class, I'm doing a landmark class on, I can't remember what it is, but it's
Beyond
about
fitness.
beyond fitness. Thank you. And it's not about being fit according to the world terms. It's about what is there beyond fitness that has us be fit regardless of what's going on with us physically. And we were to create a possibility, and I was stunned when I figured out the possibility. Those of you who've been watching me, I have a heart condition that's fragile until it's not. And so my ability to pay attention to my body went from when I have to 24/7. Yes. And but what I wrote down stunned me, because what I wrote down is, I'm creating the possibility of enjoying my body. And up until that minute, that second, it would have been about keeping my body going so I could do what I needed to do in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was a complete turnabout face. It really blew my mind. And because I realized what you said, Lori, is that's how it all started for all of us. We came here to enjoy a body. It's why we incarnated to begin with as immortals, so that we could enjoy the sensory field of our existence. And then some kind of crap happened that we're still trying to figure out. But the return to the body and self-expression is a return to the body, because the body feels happy, feels satisfied, until you have to figure out the interface with the outer world. And it's not just our judgment inside. We were raised in the judgment of the outer world, the unsaid judgment about how we should be. And everything's cracking loose now. Everything
Mm-hmm.
now.
And finding that flow, that is the vitality of life, is that flow. So how do you flow in and out, into the external world, into the internal world, and balance, harmonize, synchronize that to move from the fullness of who we are, that full self-expression. Because we are not only our minds, we are not only our hearts, we are not only our bodies, we are all of that. And, connecting that to your Janice and Deb's talk last week about the collaboration. To me, collaboration starts with us. Like, can we collaborate with ourselves? And when we can collaborate with ourselves efficiently, effectively, effortlessly, then that networking, that blending, and being in relationship with others is so much more potent, so much more steadfast in the power of being grounded between heaven and earth and being in our full expression.
You just made me cry.
Yay! It's finally not me.
Because until this moment, I didn't realize I haven't been able to explain this joy I've been in because I'm still very much at risk. Like my face is numb right now, my chest is hurting, but it's that collaboration with my body and my body's collaboration with me. But it's not just that, it's all the people that have supported me and my crazy god dog, and it's the collaboration of the universe that operates on behalf of life, regardless of circumstances. So bless you.
And
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Janice.
I think it's being open to that, right? Because we can be open in a way that allows us to pick up on all those opportunities, or we can be in a place of being more closed off and having expectations about the need for a certain solution showing up in a certain way at a certain time, as opposed to surrendering to the brilliance of creation, that there are all different kinds of things that could come to us that could help us move forward that we can't even imagine ourselves.
That's the beauty of community and the shared stories and the conversation. Yeah.
And it's the one with another in the field. If we don't do the with, we actually can't do the for.
That is
Exactly.
a powerful one-liner.
Because collaboration is with for.
Right. But most of us were taught to be of service first, to not take care of yourself, to do what others want you to do, and to serve the greater whole, or serve whoever you're supposed to serve. But it turns out that you really can't serve well if you don't take care of yourself first. And if you don't come from collaboration, which is really listening to the other and creating with the other and looking to new options and ideals with others. And when you can do that, then the for happens. Right? And when the for that it happens then allows so many people to blossom and grow. It's an amazing process. But if our for comes from, I will take care of you, you are inferior, you don't have anything to add to this, it doesn't have that same generative power at all. And I think that's why people fight against being patted on the shoulder and we'll take care of you, because they understand that there's no growth or power there. So we get to collaborate.
Yep. And it's my favorite, my big word for the year, reciprocity. It's that I give to you, you give to me. I love you, Deb. I can just feel it, right? It's like, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
And it's the natural
And
world.
yes,
It's our natural state. The other one is protect and defend is not our natural state.
Mhm.
one of my favorite lessons of all time was obligation versus doing something and being something just for the love of doing or being that. Favorite lesson. And yeah, reciprocity, nothing like it.
Yeah, I see the how I'm gonna play devil's advocate and challenge a little bit. The reciprocity, I agree with that. And there's my Western connection to that. There's still something I must do in order to get. So how can we be our full expression and allow the being, that embodiment of being, be the gift? Like if I'm that and each of you are that, then wow, like there's nothing to do because I was just resourced. I was just fed from the simple fact that you were fully in yourself.
You just captured completely the out past the edge I did, where I repurposed reciprocity.
Wow.
You just totally did exactly what I said, and then out past the edge. The reciprocity is when we find ourselves fulfilled in how we receive and give. So it isn't about giving and receiving at all. It's about how we feel fulfilled by what we give and how we feel fulfilled by what we receive. So the key word in reciprocity is being filled up and enlivened and chied, being heavily vital chied. And so that's just really, really funny. I have an ideal story, by the way. So my friend from Ireland, my gorgeous Niall, he would get on these rants. He was having this rant about me. So I told him to get out of the car. He was from Ireland. He'd never been in the States. He was about 8 miles from the house. And he got out of the car and I just looked at him and smiled sweetly and said, honey, why would you ever want to even spend time in a car with someone like that? And left. And when he got back to the house, of course, anybody would pick him up. When he got back to the house, the woman walked to the house with her eyes were glowing. And she said, oh my God, I just had to meet you. He just couldn't stop talking about how wonderful you were on the way to the door and in the car. But I just think we've hit a key point on this one because we think that we don't need the beauty of being seen and the beauty of being loved and the beauty of being cared for. We think we should get along without it, but we can't anymore. Our species is going to die if this species, another one will get born. We're in our, according to the native tribes, we're on our 5th extinction event. According to other indigenous tribes, we are the 9th we are the 9th humanoid. So we don't realize that we're not the permanent species, that there have been other species before us and they have experienced extinction events. And I don't know where I was or who I was 12,000 years ago, but I was really clear when I came back that I was not going to be part of that extinction event. That I was really clear about. And I also think CreateAWorld came from that too.
It's so interesting because we'll study Neanderthals, the I don't say that one, Denovians, whichever the different names of the this Homo sapien, but it's all mental. We don't think of them as, ooh,
Us.
they were us. And they may still live through whatever little bits of DNA got transferred, but they ain't no more. We don't think of it beyond the mental and what's on the charts and graphs, and oh my word, what you just said was something else.
Except they live through your other lives then. Because if you were Danuvian or were Neanderthal or other races that were species that we don't know, they live within us.
Yes.
And we're in interaction with them all the time.
But that's not
Feeding.
really explored either from the
Oh God, no, from the
typical
Western mental line,
anthropological.
forget
It's
it.
Everything truly is being included and moving to the next greater whole.
Yes, definitely, definitely, definitely.
That is the truth.
I don't know why that's so
And-
funny to me this morning. It's like, ooh.
But wouldn't it be amazing if every one of our interactions, when we were talking, said, well, here, I just want to do this for you because I don't want to go extinct.
Yeah.
And make a new game. Well, that's one of the most popular games on my iPad is trying to make sure the king doesn't drown. I would never do this ever, but it speaks to this whole idea of don't let the king go extinct. Now I do have an opinion about that, but we won't.
Wouldn't that make an
So bad.
incredible video game?
I know you make an incredible video game. All right, we're 3 minutes before the end of our hour. Any who wants to complete for us? And I'm with Josh Dietrich next week. We're going to chat. He's an amazing Newfield coach, and he's amazing beyond that. And he's plays out past the edge and out of the box. My favorite kind of people. So that's who I'll be having a tea with next week. Janice, you want to close this off?
Sure. So again, I think we find ourselves being with choice points. There, for most of us, there is a reality of separation that we've grown up in. For most of us, that's been a very Western, linear, logical culture where each piece is sort of treated as discrete. I think that's where the separation comes from. It's like there's this box and this box and this box and this box. And yet what we've been talking about this morning is this other way of being where everything is connected. And again, that is the natural world. In the natural world, everything is connected, right? The flap of a butterfly wing, changing the temperature on the other side of the globe. I was listening to something, Tantra, from the not too distant past where you were talking about atoms, and the fact that the atoms that are on the planet are the atoms that have been on the planet. And we have water in us that could have been in a dinosaur at some point. So we are, that we're connected isn't just a mental construct, like it is a literal physical reality that we are connected because matter moves between us. And in this connected place, then, that's where being can really birth itself, because then you just move with what's in front of you. You move with what's yours to do, trusting that what's not yours to do is somebody else's to do. And to me, that is really the beauty of a fully functional collaborative community, again, that I feel like we can see most prominently in Native Native people and First Nation people, is that they get that, and they structure their societies around that. And so there wasn't the sort of loneliness that we often experience in a more Western culture, where loneliness is an experience of being separate. So we're inviting you to the experience of connection.